Governor Greg Abbott of Texas has shipped over 85,000 illegal immigrants over this past year, upsetting a lot of blue, liberal, self-serving, virtue signaling sanctuary cities and he's effectively flipped the narrative from the small border towns complaining, hey, we can't take it, to some big, big cities. Where's he shipped them to? Who's upset? Let's get into it. Here we go. In less than a year and a half, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has transported 85,400 illegal immigrants, so-called sanctuary cities run by Democrats who don't want to adhere to federal immigration enforcement. Oh, yeah. Hey, now. New York City has borne the brunt of Texas offloading the crisis to Democratic enclaves, with Abbott sending 32,200 to the Big Apple starting in August of 2022, according to his office. And Eric Adams is now saying, we're at the bursting point. Can't take it. It's going to destroy the city. You think? That's what the folks in the southern red states have been saying for years, right? I mean, what happens there, same thing up north in your virtue signaling sanctuary cities. Chicago has seen the second amount of migrants sent from Texas, with 24,500. And if you think about these numbers, so you got 32.2 and 24.5, those are big numbers. But how many millions have come across and are already strewn throughout the United States? How many millions? 6, 7, somewhere in that ballpark? And we had 302,000 come across just last month, December of 2023. 302,000. Think about that. That is a massive amount of humanity just coming in. We're here. Came from all over the world. We're here. Help us out. Help us out. All right, get on that bus and we're going to ship you up there. While highly unpopular, specifically among Democrats, I think that's funny. You think? I mean, you were virtue signaling, sanctuary cities. Bring them all to us, until you weren't. Abbott's strategy of sending migrants to sanctuary cities is helping flip the narrative and get more attention on the crisis. I think it's genius. I think it's great. I mean, this is literally spreading the love around to people who have virtue signaled, we're a sanctuary city. Bring them to us. Oh, and then you actually have to do it. You have to figure out policy, that you have to figure out ways to fund it. You have to figure out ways to physically put these people in places, housing. Oh, then you actually got to do some work. So all that lip service you did, we're Democrats, we're great. Yeah, now the rubber hits the road and you're actually having to do it. Yeah, there's no more room at the end. Not in my backyard. We're no longer. They're putting, literally in Chicago, they're putting up signs saying, illegal buses with illegal immigrants, don't get off on this exit. Go to the next one. Just keep going. We don't have room for you. Keep going. So meanwhile, illegal immigration is set to reach a record high, with border officials on track to process more than 300,000 in December alone. Here's where he's sending them. So we got New York City. We got Chicago at 24.5. We got Washington, D.C. That's also a big one. I wonder how Bowser's doing there, right? Washington, D.C. These cities are just so poorly run. It's got 12,500 in Washington, D.C. Denver, another big one. And a lot of folks, and it took me a while to figure this out, why they are going to these cities. Now, it's because they've already got a certain number of communities set up that are already there. So if you're from Venezuela, you can figure out within New York, Chicago, DC, or Denver, Philadelphia, or LA, there's going, when you've got literally millions coming into the country, they have set up shop somewhere, right? And that's oftentimes it's these cities. That is where they're choosing to go. They have heard through the grapevine, hey, go here. They'll set you up. They'll help you get going. And I don't blame these millions of human beings for wanting a better life. I don't think anybody does, but it's the way that this is happening. And it's the way that the federal government is not implementing kind of a law and order approach to how this goes down. When you've got 300,000 people coming into your country in 1 month, that's kind of an indicator that all is not well, right? I mean, it's just crazy. So we go from Denver Denver took 11,100. Denver has its own homeless population problems that they can't seem to work out. It's because they're blue-run Democrat cities. They're just being run into the ground. All that compassion without any practicality. And that's the same thing here. Greg Abbott, all right, practically, we're going to take off pressure from the southern states and we're going to put it to these self-proclaimed sanctuary cities. And that's practical. That is spreading the love around. That's reasonable. And yet, these cities that can't figure out how to make it all work now because they've been overrun with a few thousand people, they're like, this is destroying our city. Eric Adams literally said that in New York. So we got Philadelphia, 3,400. I'm sure that's going well. Can you imagine getting dropped off on Kensington Avenue? Oof, yeah, not so much. I refer to Philadelphia as Kensington Avenue now because, that's all you need to know, right? Kensington Avenue. I'm sure there's a lot of nice neighborhoods in Philadelphia, but the one that's got the hot seat is Kensington Avenue. So that's what we're gonna call it. And then we got LA at 1,250. I think, LA, the West Coast, and I know we've had a bunch here in Seattle, a bunch down in Portland. It's just so damn far away from the southern border, right? And so I think as the folks go to where it's easiest to get to, and you've got New York City, you got Chicago, you got DC, Denver, a little bit trickier, but I get it. But even further than Denver, you got to go, way further west to get to Seattle. So we just don't get that many. And they're not pouring through the Canadian border. It's weird how that works, right? Just crazy how that's going on. So here we've got the obligatory picture. And a lot of folks were saying, hey, with winter coming, this is going to be a disaster. I've watched a bunch of videos, as a YouTube guy does, research, right? We jokingly refer to watching crappy videos as research for your job. Yeah. so this morning, somebody sent me a video of a cat that was overweight, that its owner was having it swim in a swimming pool to work off those calories. Of course, I watched that whole video. It was great, in the name of research. But all the videos were saying, hey, you know what? They're going to be able to get through a Chicago. These folks are tough. They're going to be able to get through a Chicago winter. They're going to be able to get through a New York winter because they've made it all the way through Mexico. Not a cakewalk. Riding the Beast train at night, freezing temperatures, wind chill factor of I don't know what. Just insanely cold. They can make it through with some blankets on a sidewalk for a number of days or weeks or whatever they need to in these cities. They'll figure it out. These are not people that are like, I don't know what to do. They want to work. They come here. They want to work. They want to get going, but their work visas, their work permits take a long time. And it's because of the inefficiencies and also the pure numbers of folks coming into our country. It's not sustainable. So it's putting that pressure kind of on the higher ups in these cities. And now these cities, New York and Chicago are, we need federal dollars. We need federal funding. So it comes after other high crossing months where images emerge showing at times thousands of migrants line up after illegally crossing into the country. Austin-based political communications firm partner Brendan Steinhauser said that what has been called a political stunt by many is actually shifting the conversation from focusing on very isolated parts of the southern border towns like Lukeville to major U.S. cities, Chicago, D.C., Denver. Hey, now you're getting a taste of it. How's that working out for you? How about them apples? Oh, now you've got issues with it? That whole sanctuary city thing, not so much? Interesting, right? Steinhauser said, according to Just the News, it's a real problem now. It's not just an intellectual argument. It's on the streets. And that's the difference. That's the thing with a lot of the cities that are, self-proclaimed democratic sanctuary cities. They're run by people that just can't work out reality, right? Hey, you decriminalize drugs. Do you think you might have some issues? Oh, that's one of the arguments going on right now in Oregon, right? Measure 110. What would happen if you decriminalized basically all of your heroin, meth, and fentanyl? Do you think you might have a big spike in crime? Do you think you might have a big spike in overdoses? No? Okay, well, let's just see what happens. Roll the dice. Yeah, it happens. Now, Measure 110, they're talking about repealing parts of it in Oregon. Weird. The intellectual argument goes to boots on the ground. Oh, yeah. Former Texas State Guard member helped offload the first buses of migrants coming from Texas in August 2022. Since that time last year, 12,500 migrants have been transported to Washington, D.C., including dropping many off in front of Vice President's residence, Kamala Harris. I think that's great. Hey, Kamala, you're the border czar. What happened? Get your ass out there and help them do whatever they need. And 11,100 to Denver. I'm just not hearing good things about Denver. My son Kieran loves to go there, but everybody also likes to go to Portland. So whatever. Yeah, you know what I mean. And 3,400 arrived in Philadelphia and 1,250 in LA. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass last August called the move evil. Spreading love around is evil? Well, I mean, you are mayor of LA, so I get it. I mean, that's where you're coming from. And a month later, the White House labeled it a cruel, inhumane political stunt. No, it's taking the pressure off of states that have been overrun because lack of policy at the federal level. Period. And now that the narrative is turned, oh, yeah, we need some more money. We don't have enough money for all this. In a post on X, formerly Twitter, on December 20th, Governor Abbott wrote that his state was able to bus 82,900 migrants to sanctuary cities to help relieve the stress on border communities that usually bear the brunt of the ongoing crisis. In Congress, Republicans are pushing for huge immigration and border overhaul in exchange for sending more aid to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. Why are we funding this? In defending against threats from Russia, Hamas, and China, respectively. In lieu of that happening yet, Governor Abbott signed a law last month that allows his state law enforcement to arrest, detain, and deport illegal immigrants without going through federal channels. Just did a podcast on that. Greg Abbott, again, is saying, hey, if you, the feds, aren't going to do it, and that's a border in between U.S. and Mexico, we're going to do it. I'm going to let my guys do it. If you're not going to do your job, we're going to do it because we're being invaded. Yeah, that's not going over well with the Department of Justice. They're threatening to sue as of, they're telling him to back off as of today, January the 3rd. And if you didn't back off, going to be sued. Texas is going to be sued. And that's what'll happen. And they'll work it out in the court system. Democrats say it's cruel to hold the aid hostage in exchange for what they say are inhumane immigration policy. But Abbott and other border state leaders have accused Democrats of not caring about the effects of mass illegal immigration has on their community because they are mostly Republican enclaves. 100% true. Look at where they are. Look at the states they're in. Yeah, these guys could give a crap because it's not in their backyard. Well, now that it is, oh, hey, we need some money. We can't do it. This is not sustainable long term. Our city's being destroyed. New York City is being destroyed. Weird. Yeah, who knew? Right? Therefore, Abbott teamed up with others to start flying and busing migrants to Democrat cities. Now they're flying folks in. Just great. I mean, this is what needs to happen, right? You got to change up something. This is not sustainable long term. Steinhauser said the Texas governor wanted to bring those problems to those who downplayed the crisis and also virtue signaled that they could handle it. Bring them our way. We're a sanctuary city. Since then, Democratic leaders in cities like New York City, Chicago, and Denver have called for the Biden administration to address more directly the illegal immigration issue in the U.S. and to provide assistance. Maybe there is something to this. Yeah, because, I mean, we're not having a lot of luck. I mean, you bust thousands of people to our city, and man, this is overwhelming. Yeah, kind of like those southern cities, on the southern border have been saying for literally years. It's not just about New York City. It's all of these cities that are being impacted from Brownsville, El Paso, Houston, Chicago, New York, Denver. Adam said, this is really an issue that you're seeing play out on the streets of our cities. It's so funny to hear these guys talk because it's like it wasn't really happening when it was happening to a red city. Literally. They're just like, yeah, it just whoosh, right over their heads, right? Just didn't get it. Now they get it. Oh, hey, actually people coming into the country. That's weird. And they're getting off in buses in our cities. And we can't handle it. So strange, right? It will crush city budgets around the country, Johnson said. That's Mayor Mike Johnston. He's running Denver into the ground. He's doing a great job. He called for more federal money to cover the costs of illegal immigrants. Chicago Mayor, let's go Brandon Johnson, called Abbott's actions inhumane and unconscionable. Now, your leadership is unconscionable, Mayor, let's go Brandon Johnson. You're a terrible leader. But the citizens of Chicago knew that was going to be the case, but they elected him anyway. Whatever. But I want to make this very clear. The international crisis that we're experiencing right now is being subsidized by local economies. That is not sustainable. Weird. Goes on to say some other stuff, but yeah. How is this going to end? What's going to happen? Yeah, it's an amazing topic going into election year, because you either kind of identify with it and you follow it, or you're like, yeah, couldn't give a crap about the southern border. It's not impacting me. And that's literally what's happened with what Abbott and with what at one time, Florida with Ron DeSanctimonious, I think is what Trump calls him. Some of the nicknames Trump comes up with are just like, all right, hear what you're saying and it's funny, but it's like, okay. Florida at one time was shipping them out willy-nilly as well. Arizona is too, but they just don't have the sheer numbers that are coming through Texas. And Texas has more resources to basically do this. And that's what we're doing. So this will be a wild story to continue following. And I know a lot of you are interested in it. And so that's why we're doing it. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for supporting. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.